Bjorn. As you finish your onslaught, the dragon, bloodied, beaten, turns to you and lashes out with its tail. Or... Sanctuary, it's your turn. Oh, wait, sorry. First, the Tarrasque is going to make an attack. Legendary actions are a core part of 5e monster design. First appearing in the 2014 Monster Manual, they were envisioned as a way to help a monster keep up with the action economy of an entire party by itself. I'm not going to explain action economy in depth, that isn't the purpose of this video, and it's well-worn territory. If you aren't aware, the basic explanation is that in 5e, the side that takes the most actions by the end of the fight usually wins. And while considered vital to have on an important and impactful monster, I've never really liked them all that much. They were this strange, new, tacked-on system that didn't show up anywhere else in the game. As a result, I personally often forgot they even existed, either running several rounds without using any, or having to interrupt a player near the start of their turn before I forget to use them again. They felt like a disruption to the flow of combat rather than spicing it up. I've seen an idea being floated around the 5e design community that legendary monsters should just have extra turns, and while this may work fine for your tables, I personally found it to be too much. Having so many complicated and impactful turns every round drew combat to a crawling slog. Maybe if you streamline the stat blocks themselves then it works fine, but at that point am I not just running a complex trap with movement? And then we got the Vecna dossier on D&D Beyond, introducing us to Vecna's official 5e stat block. It has a few problems. Its HP is insanely low for its CR, and its AC is fairly pitiful. And while it says you can run a more challenging fight by having Vecna use the Book of Vile Darkness to his advantage, it provides absolutely no guidance on how to actually do that. So while you could overcome his weakness to ranged weapons by using one of the book's random beneficial properties to give him resistance to all piercing damage, most simply didn't notice you could do that. But it was our first introduction to a new idea the designers had for replacing legendary actions. Multiple reactions. And I love them. Rather than interrupting the turn order, you interrupt a player's turn in response to an action they have taken, making it feel more focused on them. It also gives this amazing trigger-response dynamic to every turn that just felt electric. They were also just more versatile than legendary actions, having more possible triggers, so while they could replicate the function of legendary actions, the vice versa isn't true. Sure, it made effects that remove reactions so much stronger, but most of them are locked behind saves, and Vecna had an insane number of legendary resistances. All in all, I am very excited. All my issues with legendary actions have been solved, and I immediately started homebrewing monsters to use multiple reactions. Then we got Planescape, which features no legendary actions, and has the Ancient Time Dragon, which is one of my favourite dragons to this day. Its breath weapon has such an interesting effect, it has really potent and interesting reactions, and it just feels good to fight. And Quest from the Infinite Staircase was the same story. Although Vecna Eve of Ruin had a mix of both, and I started to get worried they're second-guessing themselves. I was looking forward to seeing how they'd tinker with this new system, and instead, like with so many other things, they seem to be considering just reverting back to how it was in 2014. Then we got a preview of the 2024 Ancient Green Dragon stat block, and it's using multiple reactions. My hopes are back up. And they're a good and varied set of reactions, one to counter ranged attacks, one to counter melee and AoEs, and one to try and ensure it can still act even if no one triggers either of its other reactions. Perhaps charming the entire party into being unable to hurt the dragon isn't the best idea, so Charm Monster could probably be swapped out for something else, but overall, in all my tests using it, it feels as threatening as it should and runs so smoothly. Then we start to get sneak peeks of legendary creatures from various content creators and even WotC themselves. And not a single one shows off multiple reactions. Instead, all of them are back to having legendary actions. And it is still technically possible we will have a mix like an Eve of Ruin, but even that will disappoint me. And I'm not even that hopeful. It seems to me my worst fears were confirmed, and they have yet again simply reverted to 2014. So, I'm going to be spending a lot of time when the 2024 Monster Manual comes out reworking stat blocks to use reactions. And if you're like me and you're going to be doing the same, I'd like to tell you how I plan on doing so in case it's helpful. Firstly, I give it a number of reactions equal to the number of legendary actions they would have had. And while reactions can theoretically have any trigger, I have 3 base ones I use that I adjust if I think of a really interesting reaction with a specific trigger in mind. First, one that triggers at the end of another creature's turn. Yes, a legendary action. I don't mind it being one of several options, as it wouldn't happen every other round. I do this to ensure that the party can't kill its action economy by avoiding its reaction triggers. Second, one that triggers on a failed save, taking the place of legendary resistances. See my video on the subject, linked in the description. If there is a difference between the monster's number of reactions it has and the number of legendary resistances it would have had, I add 1 hit die per missing resistance. Finally, I have one that triggers when the monster takes damage. It's a versatile trigger that covers pretty much all types of characters, so isn't reliant on a particular type of character being present in the party. I then use the damage or types of effects its legendary actions would have had to balance the reactions' numbers. Some of the new legendary actions we've seen have a once per round restriction. I take these and turn them into bonus actions. I feel like too many monsters lack a bonus action, making effects that restrict their ability to take them much weaker than I feel they should be, and this is a good way to work them back in. Finally, I add a specific bit of text to my reactions section, which says that any effect aside from the incapacitated condition that would remove the monster's ability to take reactions instead expends one of its reactions. This is so a 2014 Shocking Grasp can't prevent your monster from being legendary, nor can an unfortunate failed save against effects like Slow or Mind Whip, without making those effects useless. And hey, if you like these ideas, then you may like the Gold Dragon and Empyrean stat blocks I've made, based off of the reveals we've seen. They're available for free on Patreon if you join as a free member. As they're both huge or gargantuan respectively, they also serve as examples of my area of attack rules, and of course my replacement for legendary resistances. I've made sure to crunch the numbers on the different possible combinations of reactions the monster could take each round to ensure its CR is consistent across those options. Hey, if you enjoyed the content of this video, stick around. We're a newly formed TTRPG design duo, and I'm hoping to make a few more videos talking about monster design for D&D 5e, both my own and the design of the new Monster Manual when it comes out. The next video will be talking about areas of effect, my issues with them in 5e, and how I solve that in my games.